Well, we want to say to you that this alignment, this being tuned in, tapped in, turned on, this connection, this receiving mode, this art of allowing, this hooking up to source energy, this is not like a college degree where once you have it, you've got the certificate and it's yours forevermore. It either is or it isn't in the moment, and you can tell whether it is or it isn't by the way you feel. And so the first thing that we would encourage you to do is no longer speak against it as you have been doing. Now, we understand that you're saying, I want this thing I do not have. But the universe does not hear, I want this thing. It hears, I want this thing I do not have. And that's that wonky balance of vibration. So your desire is strong, but you're blocking it with doubt, or you're blocking it with awareness that it doesn't feel like it's happened yet. Can you say it in a way that might let it in better? I want to connect with source energy, and I want to know it because that's what's natural to me, and because it feels really good, and because nothing else feels so good, and because it's what I was born to do, and because it's something that I can easily do, and because it feels so good when I do it, and because I have felt it enough to know that I want it to continue, and because I believe that it's there for me, and because I know I can get better at it, and because I want it, because I want it, because I want it. Feel the difference between desiring something. Let's say that you're really new in life and you've seen something that you desire, and you just feel the freshness of that. Ooh, you want that. And nobody yet has told you that it will be slow in coming or that you can't have it. And so you don't have any doubt. You just see it and you want it. You see it in the little ones, don't you? They begin moving toward it. And you know that look on their face, that look of delight, that look of I'm moving toward that look of nobody's going to talk me out of that. Well, that's the way we want you to be. That's what we want you to return to. But as you've had experience that makes you believe that you're not doing that, then that belief has to get out of the way. You've got to get rid of that belief. You've got to stop believing that before you can have what you want. Be gone. No. You've got to stop believing that. So how do you stop believing something? Do you know what a belief is? A belief is just a thought you continue to think. So you must no longer think that thought. Can you do that? Can you no longer think that thought? Can you stop thinking that thought you're thinking? Don't think that thought you're thinking. Don't think that thought you're thinking. Don't think that thought you're thinking. Well, you can see how far you don't get with that, because when you decide that you're not going to think about that, you're thinking about that thing you're not going to think about. And so you're thinking about it, but you don't want to think about it. But then you're mad at yourself because you're thinking about it, and you can't stop thinking about it because law of attraction lurks everywhere. Law of attraction reads your vibration and gives you more. That's how law of attraction is. And that's why law of attraction and momentum are the same subject. So what might you do to slow and eventually stop altogether the momentum of those thoughts that don't let in what you want? And it doesn't matter what the subject is. How are you going to slow that momentum? Well, you go to sleep at night, that slows it. And when you wake up in the morning, you could think other thoughts if you were decided that you wanted to. But the best way that we've found is by setting a time aside every day. 15 minutes is enough to quiet your mind, because when you quiet your mind, you stop all momentum of all thoughts. When you meditate successfully, you quiet your mind, and when you quiet your mind, you stop the momentum of beliefs. You stop the momentum of hindering beliefs. You cannot stop, we have not said this before, you cannot stop the momentum of what your inner being believes. Your inner being's beliefs, your inner being's knowledge of who you are and how this all works. You cannot stop those beliefs, but you could stop doubtful beliefs by stopping all thought for a little bit of time. And so when you quiet your mind like that, Esther likes that feeling because it feels like she's sort of floating. She can't tell her nose from her toe. You know, it's a feeling of detachment. And she knows she's there because she's not thinking any thoughts. When you are in that detached state, you've suspended your point of attraction from your thinking mind. You've stopped thought, so you've stopped resistant thought. And a wonderful thing happens when you do that. Your own personal vibration begins to rise and acclimate and connect with. It syncs up When you stop your thought through meditation, your vibration sinks, locks in to the vibration of your inner being momentarily. Now, you can come out of meditation and go right back into a negative conversation with someone, and you can lose that connection. But when you sync up, you're right there. And that's what you're asking for. That's what you want. You want that seamless transmission of your inner being and all that your inner being knows. Source energy flowing to you and through you with no tripping points, with no resistance, with no beliefs that are active within you that are getting in the way. It's such an easy thing to do. It's such an easy thing to do. There is not one of you who cannot do that. And when you get into that receiving mode, you'll know it when you're in meditation, because you'll go from a quieted mind to a thought that seems to come out of nowhere. It didn't. It's a thought that your inner being is thinking, and it's a thought that you, because you're not thinking in contradiction, now are thinking too, because you've synced up. Yes, you've synced up with that thought, and now you're having the thoughts of inner being in your mind. You are tuned in, tapped in, turned on. You are pure positive energy, and because your inner being knows everything you've lived and everything you've asked for and everything you want, now when your inner being is aware that you're tuned in, now gentle at first but steady and sure, clear thoughts will begin streaming through your mind. Answers to questions, solutions to problems, whatever you want. The most significant thing that you begin to feel is an impulse to move, an impulse to go there or do that. In other words, follow that impulse once you're sure that you've got it. So it takes a few days, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 20, to sink into this and to consciously know that you have connected with that. But once you do, then there's no stopping you, because a thought will come. You will feel the clarity and the power and the viability of it. You'll feel the vibrational accuracy of it. You'll feel the love of it and the power of it. You'll know. And no matter what it is about, Esther receives so many thoughts about so many things. And at first, when it wasn't about something that was of major importance, she accused herself of making it up in her own mind. Why would Abraham be wanting to move furniture around? Why would source energy be guiding me towards something that doesn't seem all that important? But it's because you've got a lot of things in your vortex, and your inner being knows what your path is, what your path that has the least resistance along the way. Your inner being knows what it is. And so off you go in the direction of it. You see, your inner being is always thinking in the direction of your desires, of who you have wholly become through all that you've lived. So when you think an opposing thought, in other words, when you think, I would like to be of value to this world, that's your desire. And your inner being not only knows that you want it, but knows that you are it. Your inner being knows it in present tense terms. Your inner being sees you there. When you see yourself not there, that's an opposing thought. And that opposing thought, you see, you summon so much of this source energy that when you go in the other direction of it, that's what negative emotion is. That's what fear is. So fear is your loving indicator that what you're doing with your mind right then is causing resistance that is preventing you from receiving right now what you're asking for. You're less likely to do that in meditation. You're not going to fear during meditation when your mind is quiet. Because when your mind is quiet and you're synced up with your greater mind, when you've only got that one thought going or that one perspective going, there can be no contradiction to that one. And so it's only contradiction to that energy that causes fear or anger or depression or. It's a somewhat slight thought about something about it. Esther was afraid she was going to be possessed. She had heard that. Oh, Esther, only bad things will come when you tune into God. Was basically what she was hearing people say. Pure positive energy. She knew it was good. She could feel it was good. She'd never felt love like that before in her life. And then some fearful people warned her about it. And she thought, that can't be right. Something that feels like this can't be that, you see? So it might be that. It might be a little bit of feeling like you're going to lose control, but you won't. You cannot. You can sync with who you are and gain greater awareness of who you are. Esther realized after receiving us in those really early days that if the telephone would ring, she would immediately feel the release of whatever it was we were doing, and off she would go. In other words, she realized that we were not there to control her or to possess her. We were there to be a vibrational match to every single thing that she had ever asked for, and to beam a signal about that so clear that it would be obvious to her in every moment of every day, whether she was in sync with her own desire or whether she was opposing it with old thoughts that she'd picked up along her physical trail. And so you'll free yourself from that in time. But one of the things that we've noticed, and we like this so much, as you hear us here, many of you have had the experiences that we're talking about. So everything we're saying here is just confirmation of what you're already living, or what you're already living is confirmation of what you're hearing here. It makes sense to you. But until you have actually quieted your mind and you know it, and then received a thought, and you know unequivocally that you have received a thought from source, regardless of the subject matter, and you have known that, and so you have followed the impulse of that thought, and it has led you to that, some call it a still small voice, and yet it's not something that you're actually hearing. It's something that you are knowing. It's something that you are feeling. It's something that you are moved toward. As you begin to move in the direction of that, and then wonderful things happen as a result of your having moved toward it. Now you have personal knowledge of many things. Personal knowledge that you've connected, personal knowledge that you are in the receiving mode, personal knowledge that you received, and personal knowledge that you acted upon what you received, and personal knowledge that it was a good thing, that it moved things along, that it turned out well. Then and only then is it your personal knowing. Because words really don't teach. Surprising we offer so many, isn't it? But everyone teaches through the clarity of their own example. If we say something to you that you haven't had personal experience about, then the words don't mean that much. And so you want to become enlightened, and you want to have this clarity pouring through you, and you want it to be for your benefit and for the benefit of others. You know, you were born for that. You came because you are an uplifter to the very core of your being. That's why we want to say to you that through the clarity of your example, others may find this for themselves too. But you will never be one who receives a big wad of goodness and then asserts it into somebody else's experience. Because if that were the case, you got to know source energy would have been asserting it into all of your experiences. Source energy is offering it to you, squirting it in your direction, but you've got to let it in. And in many cases, you got to learn how to let it in. The beasts of your planet still well remember how to let it in, and you call them instinctual. You say they have really good instinct. It must have come through their cellular body. And we say they're tuned in, tapped in, turned on mostly. When you domesticate them, some of them begin to act like you do, but the beasts in the wild especially are pure receivers. We know that you heard what we just said. We know that you've had the experience of that quieted mind, and we know you've had that experience of receiving some impulse. When you yawn, you're receiving that impulse. Your inner being knows your body would benefit by more breathing, and that's hard for you to deny. 12 of you did it just now. We know you heard it. It's the best we've ever said it. Yeah.